CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello and welcome to The Agenda. I'm Stephen Cole, and this week The Agenda has come here to Beirut to meet a millionaire fugitive businessman with a price on his head and an Interpol warrant out for his arrest. His name? Carlos Ghosn. The former CEO of Nissan and Renault is now living here after escaping house arrest in Japan, where he's facing multiple charges of financial misconduct. He insists he's entirely innocent, a man more sinned against than sinning. So, why is he here in Beirut? We'll find out on The Agenda. On November the 19th, 2018, Carlos Ghosn was one of the most powerful men in the car industry. He ran Nissan, Renault and Mitsubishi. But when his private jet touched down at Tokyo Airport that day, he was arrested, accused of underreporting his salary to the tune of $44 million between 2011 and 2015. He was later charged with similar offences relating to the period up to March 2018. On the 21st of December that year, he was rearrested over allegations of making Nissan cover $16.6 million in personal investment losses. On April the 4th, 2019, he was again arrested on suspicion he tried to enrich himself at Nissan's expense. After spending more than 100 days in solitary confinement, it was on the 31st of December 2019 that he made his dramatic flight to Beirut. Starting from his home in Tokyo, he traveled to Osaka on the bullet train. He went to a hotel where, it's alleged, he hid in a concert flight case, which was then transferred onto a private jet at Kansai International Airport. He then flew to Istanbul, arriving at 5:12 a.m. local time before going on to Beirut. On January the 2nd, Interpol issued an arrest warrant for him. On January the 7th, Japan issued an arrest warrant for Ghosn's wife, Carol, for alleged perjury. And on January the 8th, he holds his now infamous news conference. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful day to talk to The Agenda.
Thank you, Stephen.
You're in currently the eye of the storm. Your story has already, I bet, actually been the subject of a screenplay, but it's been described as a sort of great escape type story. And when I was reading the detail, it reads a bit like a sort of best-selling spy novel. How would you describe your departure, your escape?
It was difficult for me because, frankly, I still consider that the best place where you can clear your name and clear the whole story would be Japan. Because this is where the facts are. I think the Japanese public himself is fair. What I consider unfair is the system that present the facts in a distorted manner. And I've been for 14 months under a systematic bombardment that I call character assassination.
And so you decided to leave Japan?
Yes.
How did you go about organizing your escape, if I can call it that?
Look, obviously, as I said it, I'm not going to talk about this because I would be exposing a lot of people who frankly had the courage to support me in a very difficult at a very difficult time. But what I can tell you that I planned this by myself for a very simple reason. If too many people were aware of it, then you can expect any leak to jeopardize the whole plan. And I acted very quickly, and you know, hopefully. Fortunately, the result was very good, but it was risky. I was conscious of this. But frankly, the biggest risk for me was to stay in Japan.
The story has an element of cloak and dagger about it, including one accusation that you hid in a Yamaha music box. Is that true or not?
Look, again, I'm not going to comment. I know that there are a lot of stories going on. I want to maintain these stories. Maybe one day you'll know the truth.
Well, when the film comes out?
Maybe the day that I consider that the people who have been helping me are out of risk, then I would be delighted to tell the truth, because there is no reason for me to hide about what happened. But yes, I know there are a lot of story going on in the social media. Don't expect from me any confirmation on information of what's going on before the people who supported me are out of reach.
I want to go back to your youth, your background, before you became king of cars, or god of cars, as one headline I saw. A Brazilian boy growing up in Lebanon, did that make you feel an outsider?
Oh, I've always been an outsider. But the fact that I was born in Brazil and raised up to 17 years old in Lebanon put me in two countries which are used to, hybrid population. Brazil is a melting pot. Lebanon is a melting pot. There are two melting pots of different kinds. So the fact that I've been educated into and raised into two countries used to diversity, used to different cultures, different backgrounds, made things very easy for me to try, in my older days, to bring together different culture, different companies, and make them work in a way which is very smooth. And that's what exactly happened. So my background helped me a lot.
And then you went to France,
Yes.
A very nationalistic car maker, to Renault. What was that like, going to such an iconic car company in France?
Yeah, well, it was tough at the beginning because obviously I was totally different from the environment in which I was finding myself. As you know, Renault basic culture when I arrived was very nationalistic, very European-centric, and all the tentatives of Renault to become more global, more international, were not successful. And it's not they were not successful because the projects were not good, but because the basic culture of the company, which is centered on your own market or on your own continent, was very difficult to make it very successful when you go globally. But fortunately, my predecessor, Louis Schweitzer, was conscious of this. And he said, okay, I need somebody who's going to come and open up this company to the global market. So he hired me with the intention to, if I was successful, obviously, to succeed to him.
20 years ago, 1999, you went or were asked to go to Japan. What were you asked to do there?
Well, there was a discussion between Renault and Nissan, and at that moment, Renault was not the preferred candidate to partner with Nissan. It was Daimler. It was Jürgen Schrempp, who was the CEO of Daimler at that moment, who was the #1 candidate for the Japanese. But Jürgen Schrempp, because he was facing the integration with Chrysler, came and told the Japanese there will not be a deal with Daimler. So then Renault was the only candidate in place, and the deal was made with Renault. But this deal was conditioned by the fact that I would be sent to Japan to help the Japanese turn around the company.
Because Nissan was failing.
Yeah, well, Nissan had a $20 billion debt. As you know, usually companies ask for help when they are near collapse. I mean, nobody asks for help when they can survive by themselves. But Nissan was near collapse. It has a $20 billion debt, and the Japanese bank did not want to lend anymore. So you are in front of a cash crunch, and there was a date limit. So they had to make a deal. They made a deal, but they asked me specifically to come and join Nissan as a chief operating officer under Hanawa-san, who was the CEO, to turn around the company, and that's what I've done, starting in June 1999.
I've worked in Japan a few times. It's a very, very different culture. I'm saying that to you. I mean, you know all this. But did you find it difficult to adapt to that kind of culture?
Yeah, it was difficult, but I was used to it. Again, don't forget my background. Born in Brazil, raised in Lebanon. In Lebanon, I was an outsider. In Brazil, I was also an outsider because I was born into the interior of Brazil, into a very kind of country of the pioneers. It was in the state of Rondônia. So I was always somehow an outsider. So for me, coming to different country was something I was used to, but also I like different culture. I think this is an enrichment. So when I went to Japan, I measured the challenge, but at the same time, I was fascinated by this challenge.
Under your leadership, the company went from $229 million loss to the most profitable car maker in the world in 2003.
Yeah.
That's quite a turnaround.
Yeah, in fact, it came from a more than $2 billion loss to one of the most profitable. Yeah, because in fact, with the people in Nissan, we've done one of the most, a remarkable turnaround in the history, because it was done in Japan, it was done by foreigner, and it was completely different because, you know, Japan is extremely attached to its tradition, and we had to change some of these traditions in order to be successful. So yes, it has been a great story, and that's one of the reasons for which still until now a lot of people in the public in Japan are a little bit surprised about what happened. I mean, you told us that this guy for 17, 18 years was the role model in terms of management, you know, and then all of a sudden you're telling us all these nasty things about him. So for 18 years, you didn't discover anything, even though there have been so many books written about him, there have been so many cases studied, so many universities, so many. So this is what's a little bit surprising even for the Japanese public.
You hinted at something there in that answer, by a foreigner,
Yeah.
you said.
Yes.
Is there a bit of a clue there?
Well, you know, I don't think the Japanese public in itself is unfavorable to one foreigner coming, rescuing a company and getting credit for this. But without any doubt, there is a specific group of people who didn't like it at all, saying, okay, this guy has been successful, a foreigner can be successful in Japan, because as you know, there is a kind of insular culture in Japan, which is still very strong, and particularly for some people, it was unbearable. A lot of people in the Japanese press told me, you know, that you are walking on a lot of toes by being successful and doing what you're doing.
Were you aware of doing that?
I was aware of this, but I never thought that would go so far in terms of reaction. I never thought this because, you know, I never thought that Japanese people would pay, the Japanese government would pay with evil all the good, I think, I've done to the country, because I've been the ambassador for Japan. I've been the ambassador for Japanese business for so many years. I fought for them in Davos. I rescued the company. I made an alliance that a lot of people thought was not doable. That means making Nissan, Mitsubishi, Renault working together without absolutely no scratch in it, without no complaint. And unfortunately, you know, since my arrest in November 2018, is going down. That means the Nissan results going down, Mitsubishi results going down, Renault results are going down. And this alliance is not working, even though the leaders of the alliance saying, oh, everything is fine. But when you look at the numbers, you know, in a business, you can't hide these kind of things. You know, you look at the numbers, you see the growth of the company which disappeared, the profit of the company which is disappearing, you see the share which is going down, you know something's wrong.
You were, I think, the first executive to be named CEO of two companies simultaneously listed on the Fortune Global 500. You must be very proud of that achievement.
Well, I am, and these are things nobody can take from me no matter what happens.
Even though this small group was starting to get a little bit irritated by your success, perhaps? Because there was also criticism that you were spending a bit too much time with, shall we say, Davos types, more than your own managers and planners and accountants.
You know, this is interesting. I don't think this was the problem, because from one side, people said, you know, yes, he was very successful, but he could not delegate. From the other side, people say, well, he was not present enough. So you should choose.
You were suffering from what Bob Lutz called the CEO disease, a God complex.
No, I don't think so. Frankly, no. I like Bob Lutz, but probably the story he has about me are obviously not very correct. I'm a very realistic person. You know, you should know that before accepting the renewal of my mandate as the head of Renault in June 2018, I hesitated a lot because you know, with my wife, with my children, we really wondered it was not the right time to leave. But under the insistence.
So you had thought about leaving earlier?
Sure. Before June, because I was 64 years old. I thought I've been CEO for more than, you know, 18 years. I said, this is a good time to leave. Unfortunately for me, I accepted the pressure coming from the board of Renault and from the government of France, telling me you're the best person to continue to make this alliance work, and particularly to do something which will make it lasting in the future, because they were worried about the succession. You know, so I was hesitating between the two options. Unfortunately for me, I took the wrong option.
You stayed?
I stayed, which was the wrong option. on the insistence of people who abandoned me a few months after the tragedy started. But that's the reality, and I just have myself to blame that I made the wrong option.
You're here in Beirut now.
Yes.
And you're here because you don't think you'll get a fair trial in Japan.
Well, unfortunately, it's not I don't think. I'm sure I will not get a fair trial in Japan. And it's not only me. That means I already discussed a lot with my lawyers, and my lawyers told me, and they said it after I left Japan, we knew he would not have a fair trial. We knew. They said it.
Oh, your lawyers?
Yeah, my lawyers.
Your Japanese
lawyers said
the ones who have just
after I left
you.
Yeah, after I left, they said we were sure he would not have a fair trial, but we knew that with the evidence we have, he would be acquitted. That's what they said. Okay. Frankly, okay, the fact that they were sure I would not have a fair trial, I agree. The fact that they were sure I would be acquitted, I doubt.
You said you would go back to Japan for trial if necessary, but you're saying that it wouldn't be a place you would welcome going on trial.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere else you think you would welcome being put on
trial? Anywhere. I mean, Lebanon. I'm citizen of 3 countries: Lebanon, France, and Brazil. I think in these 3 countries, the rights of the defense are being respected, and in any one of these countries, I'm fine.
Can you summarize what you're accused of doing by the Japanese?
Well, the first accusation for which I was arrested, I was arrested and maintained in detention center for more than 20 days, renewed by another 20 days because they divided it in 2 periods, is underreporting my compensation for a money that I never received. So I was not arrested for money I received and I did not declare, as many people thought. I was arrested for money I did not declare and I did not receive, which was supposed eventually, if it was decided by the board, to be received after my retirement. This is the reason of the arrest. I want to tell you, this kind of accusation, it's not even certainly not criminal in any country in the world, except in Japan. And you're going to have to find a country where you will go to prison for an assumption like this.
The Japanese accuse you of not coming clean on millions of dollars.
They came with 2 or 3 breach of trust cases, which in my opinion are baseless, and I'm ready to defend. One of them is I had received a collateral from the company for a foreign exchange contract, which cost the company 0. Second, that we as a company paid compensation for a dealer in Saudi Arabia that was not deserved.
This is Jafali.
Which is wrong. Well, I have all the facts on it. And the third one, and the last one was that some of the incentive paid to the Omani dealer was rechanneled to me, which was totally wrong, not only because the head of this company stated that there was nothing like this. On top of this, there was no transfer from this company which benefited me directly and indirectly, and they know it because they've been investigating this for the last 14 months. And you know what worried me? They kept pushing the trial date. The trial date is still not fixed.
I want to sort of move to your reputation in the car business.
Yes.
You started to launch the world's first modern all-electric car. Were you ahead of your time doing that with Nissan the Leaf?
I don't think so. I think we are on time. Obviously, you have always somebody who needs to start something. I started it for the mass market cars with the Leaf, then followed by Zoe in Renault. Elon Musk started for the luxury car. So somehow we started together. Elon concentrated more on the, premium cars, and I took the mass market cars. And frankly, today, that the whole industry is moving towards electric cars.
Well, you were ahead of your time, were you, on that one?
Yeah, but somebody has to
Because
start.
I think the green market has arrived far quicker than most car makers thought.
Exactly, but I think somebody has to start the move. We had the technology, so we need to start it. Now, is it a commercial success? It will be. It took more time than we thought. Yes, we thought that it would really develop much faster, but without any doubt, it's here to stay.
You were advised to maybe leave Japan some time ago, but you decided to stay on. Some people say you should only stay as a CEO for 10 years. You stayed on for 19.
Yeah.
Did you overstay your welcome in Japan?
Well, there are many. I had many occasions. I had many occasions to leave, and I didn't leave for reasons which were frankly not my own interest, and I regret it. The most important one when in 2009, Steve Ratner, with the agreement of President Obama, proposed to me to become the CEO of General Motors. This was when, after the collapse of General Motors, and Steve Ratner was a car czar in the United States, and he was looking way to revive General Motors and revive Chrysler, which also was in bad shape. They proposed to me to become the CEO of General Motors. And I didn't leave only because I told him, I'm in charge of Renault-Nissan in the middle of the financial crisis. Captain of a boat cannot leave. The boat was in peril. We were in the middle of the financial crisis. I felt really bad about abandoning the alliance at that moment. But it was the wrong decision, obviously.
You were captain of the ship.
Yeah.
And you were accused, your critics say, of this lavish lifestyle, including the giant party at Versailles.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, this character assassination story. I mean, obviously you don't know me. I'm not the very social guy. I'm not out. They really completely overplayed one or two events. One of them was to celebrate 15 years of the alliance, which took place in Versailles. And the other one was a private party which was organized for not even for my marriage. It was for the birthday, 50th birthday of my wife. Unique events. You don't have too many of them. And frankly, they completely overblown them. It's part of the character assassination to show somebody disconnected from the reality, having a lavish life, etc. I was in charge of 3 companies, so I was spending most of my time working, traveling. Now they are accusing me of overuse of the plane, but they were very happy I was managing 3 companies at the same time. And I know they replaced me with 5 people. I mean, I was occupying the job of 5 people, and I've been replaced by 5 people. So the whole characterization does not really suffer any resistance when you put the facts.
Was this another accusation that perhaps the Japanese felt you were starting to favor Renault over Nissan?
This whole story is not finished, and hopefully the truth will be made. Thierry Bolloré was the CEO after me, after I was arrested. And Thierry Bolloré was the CEO of Renault, and he was fired in October, 9 months after. And he was fired, in my opinion, because he was defending the interest of Renault, because some people considered that he was too fierce versus Nissan. I mean, Renault owns 43% of Nissan, and you can't behave in a way where you're just kind of, equal partner. There is some kind of assumption that you need to have. So this story is far from finished. It will be said, the truth will prevail, and then you will see exactly who is responsible for what. Renault lost more than 1/3 of its market value, market cap. They're going to announce their financial result, and the forecast for next year is going to be interesting to follow the numbers. Nissan lost more than 1/3 of its market cap at the moment where all the industry were moving up in terms of market cap, 7% in average up for the rest of the industry. So -35 for the 2 companies, +7 for the rest of the industry. That means the shareholders are leaving massively these 2 companies.
They accuse you of using $12 million of what they describe as questionable expenses.
Yeah, you know what are the questionable expenses? Donation to universities because they are in Lebanon. I've donated to a lot of universities in Japan and in France. Nobody questioned them.
You were a man who was credited with saving, 3 companies, certainly Nissan and Renault. When this is over, would you see yourself returning to the car industry?
Well, I'm not sure I would return to the car industry, but I have a lot of knowledge about this industry, and particularly about the prospect of the industry. And I'm already in contact with a lot of people who would like me to give them advice, help them, support them, etc. So for the moment, I'm more concentrating on defending my rights, clearing my name, fighting the many legal battles which have been launched against me, and then we'll see.
And then you'll decide on your future.
Then we'll see.
Mr. Ghosn, thank you very much indeed for talking to us on the agenda.
Thank you.
This is a story of a billion-dollar fugitive, a story of international corporate intrigue, but it's also a very human story. Carlos Ghosn's wife, Carol, spoke to me exclusively about her sense of desolation and loneliness during her husband's detention.
When my husband was detained, we were forbidden to speak to him or write to him. We had no contact with him, so I always wondered, if he was okay, how is he feeling? And we were forbidden for almost 3 months to have any contact. Towards the end, he was allowed to write us a letter. We would communicate by letters, but for the first few months, there was no contact. And then in January, I remember the French ambassador called me at 2 a.m. He woke me up to tell me Carlos is ill with a fever. And I said, I panicked. I started crying. I said, what's wrong with him? He said, I don't know. They won't tell us what's wrong with him. But all I could tell you, your husband has a very high fever and he's very ill. And he closed the phone, and then I kept texting him all day to say, do you have any news on Carlos? And he said, no, they won't give us any news.
You must have felt very lonely.
Lonely and tortured and very worried about him.
And when did you know that he'd got out of Japan?
I found out when I was in Beirut. I was the first to find out. Someone contacted me and told me, I have a surprise for you. Go to your parents' house. I'll meet you there. It was 6 a.m. And I went to my parents.
And who was at your parents?
Carlos.
That must have been some reunion.
It was the best present of my life, actually. It was a great way to end the year and start a new year.
Well, thank you both very much,
You're welcome,
Carlos.
Stefan.
Again,
Good.
you've been really, really kind. Thank you. Where Mr. Ghosn's legal journey takes him now is uncertain, but it may not be Japan. Officials there have responded to his flight, saying they will tighten immigration procedures and investigate how Mr. Ghosn managed to elude his close surveillance. They've also defended the Japanese justice system, insisting it is fair and open.
At the press conference held by Carlos Ghosn, he presented various criticisms of Japan's judicial system, but most of them were abstract, unclear of their intention, or baseless, and they were broadcast live all around the world. We fear that could present the wrong idea about Japan's system far and wide. Japan's judicial system guarantees human rights of individuals. It is being operated with appropriate procedure in order to investigate facts, so none of his criticisms are correct.
The great irony here is that Mr. Ghosn says he's searching for justice, but because of a decision that he made, he may never find it, because there's always going to be an asterisk next to his case. He's not going to be able to make his case fully, and the Japanese prosecutors are never going to be able to make it either. So there's not going to be a real test of his innocence. But what he has done, he has let CEOs around the world know that this is an option, that if they don't like the justice in the country where they're working, they can just get up and leave. Conviction rates are high in Japan. Prosecutors win 99% of their cases. They enjoy broad powers to interview suspects without the presence of their lawyers. And many international legal experts say the system depends too much on confessions extracted under pressure. But the Japanese remain resolute. Tokyo's deputy chief prosecutor, Takehiro Saito, insists he's confident that fair trials are carried out in which the courts allow defendants to make their claims adequately and can judge from a strictly independent stance where the cases have been proved beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's not just the Japanese justice system that is standing up for itself. Representatives of Nissan too remain firm on their thoughts on Mr. Ghosn.
We discovered his huge fraud 2 years ago. As he was my trusted boss, we felt very betrayed at that time, and now I feel betrayed once again.
At the moment, Mr. and Mrs. Ghosn are safe in Lebanon from extradition, but diplomacy often finds ways of circumventing legal systems, and corporations too have long arms. So the fugitives certainly won't be able to relax until all the financial questions are answered, and maybe that won't happen until the inevitable Hollywood movie gets released. Next week on the agenda, inside the coronavirus, what can we learn from the latest global health panic? And don't forget, for more agenda content, you can visit our website or you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. For now, though, from me, Stephen Cole, and all the agenda team here in London, it's goodbye.